that joint is going to close up and be quite a lot of pressure. Lift the glutes not with our hands, just by contracting those muscles. Drop very gently forward with a little squeeze at the bottom, but try and pull the tummy muscles back and lift the hands up towards the ceiling. And lift your knees up. Let your bottom very far drop down. You can see it's really trying to pull down. There's a real... the bottom, squeeze the bottom without making the hips rotate. And then we're going to see if we can take the hand, opposite hand, off the ground. Good morning or afternoon, whatever it is to you. We're going to be working today on the sacroiliac joint. Now, it may sound something very specific, but it can have quite an impact on the whole body. So this joint is here, so it's where our hips meet into our spine there. And very often it can be inflamed, or it can be under pressure and the muscles around it aren't sort of responding properly. And that can be due to all sorts of things, such as bad posture or dominance in one side of the body. Maybe your glutes and your core aren't switching on properly. So there's also injury as well. So there's lots of different things that can cause that. And it's quite a complex thing to work out where it's coming from. But there are certain techniques and things that we can do to ensure that we feel we're giving as much alleviation to that pain or that inflammation, or giving that joint the movement that it needs. Because although it's not necessarily moving as such, there's so much pressure that can go into that area and cause discomfort. So if I just give a quick demonstration, if we think we've got that joint there, if we're somebody that sort of sits like this, that joint is going to close up and be quite a lot of pressure. Also, if you're somebody that has feet that naturally turn out, you're going to have a rotation in the hips, and that again is going to close in on the spine there. So the first thing we can do to think about what we're doing and ensure that we feel comfortable is we can monitor our posture. Now in mountain pose, which is a well-known yoga pose, what we can do is we can just kind of make sure our feet are when I say slightly pigeon-toed, I don't quite mean like that. I just mean if you look at the edges of your feet, try and get them level to the edges of your mat. And you'll notice there is a slight in-turn there. And what that's doing is it's rotating the hips inwards. And a lot of people naturally have a short muscle here as they get older, and they have this natural in-turn anyway. So we want to kind of round through the little toe a little bit to try and keep the knees open, but we're still stopping ourselves from closing that joint off. We're going to pull up through the tops of the legs. When we get to the back of the bottom, we're going to lift the glutes not with our hands, just by contracting those muscles, but without trying to push the hips forward. So one of the things we can do to make sure that we're not doing that is actually engage the core better. So if we've got that slight edge pigeon toe, and we can pull the stomach muscles back but up at the same time. So it's kind of pulling the spine up. And then if we gently bring a squeeze into the glutes here, we're not putting ourselves into this position. Obviously, when people do weight training, they'll say, no, you need to really push to activate that muscle. But if you've got problems with that joint, or you may create problems doing that. So thinking about pulling up and then pulling up through the bottom. So we're quite straight there. And make sure our knees don't fall in too much, but feeling there's a little bit of pressure through the little toes. And then just opening the shoulders and pushing the hands down towards the ground. And we're going to take a breath in and make sure that activation's nice and strong. And as we exhale, we're just going to release the muscles, the bottom, but just maintain that tall, straight position. So we're going to do that again. We're going to pull the tummy muscles up and in, and then a little squeeze up through the bottom here. So core in here is working. We lift the shoulders, put the hands down, push them down towards the ground. Hold here as we take the breath in. And letting the breath go and the body release. And we're going to do that 3 more times. So we're going to round through the little toe. We're going to squeeze in through the tummy muscles, up through the body, nice and tall. Little activation in the bottom. Shoulders down. Take a breath in. Exhale, little release. You might even feel the tummy muscles start to work. They feel like they're working hard. And again, so up in the middle of the tummy, lifting down the shoulders, activate the bottom. Breathing in. And exhale. And again, so pulling up, make sure you're not arching the back, pulling the stomach back towards the spine, pulling up through the bottom, shoulders up and engage. Big deep breath in. And exhale. And then release that. And you might find it's a little bit tender because you've been encouraging your muscles to be in a position that's not so great for you, or one that you're not used to. Just give your legs some movement. We are going to go down onto the mat and we're going to do a little bit of glute activation. So we're going to strengthen those glutes without being too much pressure on the back. And then we'll go into some core work. So as we come down, we want to take the pressure off the back here. And also what happens is when we've got a lot of pressure on the back, we tend to have a lot of pressure in the hip flex group. We tend to have very tight hips here. So if we kind of are more active in our core and in our glutes, we are actually rebalancing the body so that these 2 points aren't doing the work. So if you think this is overactive, this is underactive, this is overactive, this is underactive. So it's kind of trying to find a way to rebalance the body. If you imagine the body like the spine, almost like a tent pole, and all the muscles and things that come off it are like pulling it to one side, those tension rods, to try and get that straight. Well, if you've got one pulling tighter on one side, there's going to be a lag on the other side. So or lag on one side, tension on the other. So it's kind of trying to get, I know I'm going on time, but we're trying to get the body feeling like it's all in alignment and that joint has got less pressure on it. So if we can just bring one foot forward, and we can just take a minute to work within the hip joint a little bit. Just feel into the back there, feel into your hips, feel where the stiffness is. And then place the foot down so it's nice and flat. Just make sure your knee is stacked above the heel. And when we come forward, you're not overhanging too much. We're just going to keep that stacking engaged. Now, if we want, we can keep the hand on the knee or on the hips. But what tends to happen is if I ask you to drop forward, you can see the back kind of drops inwards and then you've got that curve there. But if we actually drop very gently forward with a little squeeze at the bottom, but try and pull the tummy muscles back and lift the hands up towards the ceiling, what we're effectively going to feel is that we're getting a stretch down the front of the body, an activation of the core, the bottom's engaged, and we're just releasing that area of discomfort. So think about that. So little movement forward, not too much. Squeezing the bottom, gently pulling and rounding, but pulling the back slightly into that curved position, and then reaching up and lifting the spine. Take a breath in here, keep the bottom activated. Exhale. And again. And exhale. And then release. Then we're going to go on to the other side. So the same again. So place that foot down. Give yourself a little bit of movement and just find a little bit of range of motion. We're not going to go too far forward. Again, we don't want activating. So we're going to place the foot down and move a little bit there. We're going to squeeze the bottom to open up this area and gently pull back and lift the hands. So we're going to feel quite a lot of work in this area in the hip. Okay, so we're going to take a breath in. Don't let the bottom release, keep pulling back so not arching the back. Exhale, just keep the body here, but just sinking downwards, that feeling of sinking. And again. Activating the core as we balance. Exhale. And again. And exhale. Then bring the hands down. Just come down into child's pose for a moment so you can feel that area of the back opening up, and just stay low and just feel that release for a moment. As you breathe in, try and pull the air down into that area. It's almost like you're trying to expand it with the air. You're trying to push the diaphragm down and put a bit of pressure on there, and it will feel it just open up slightly. And again. Let that go. And then we're going to come back up and just release and come onto our standing position. In a standing position, Just going to take the feet apart. I'm going to bend. And you may have seen on the library me do this before. But we're going to try and activate the glutes here and the core without putting too much pressure into the back there. So as we come down, I want you to imagine that you're trying to do this with your feet. You're trying to imagine there's a rip, you know, like perforated lines on the notebook, and you have to try and rip it out. Try and imagine you're trying to rip that perforated line apart by pushing your feet apart, but obviously your feet aren't going to move. So you're down, and as you push, even if you engage that, you suddenly feel the back here and the bottom sort of work. But as you notice, as you go down and you push, you've got a slight opening in the SI joint there, so you're not actually putting too much pressure on it. And then as you come up to straight, come up without putting the pressure in the back. Let's go down again. So we're going to go down, we're going to rip the world apart, rip that page out, that notepad, feel it engage, feel the opening there, contract the tummy muscles, and come back up. And again. Subtle movements, it's all it needs, just a little conversation with the muscle groups. And back up. Last time, down we go. Push the world apart. Squeeze and up. Back into our starting position. Slight pigeon toe there. Pull the tummy muscles up, pull the body up. Little activation, arms down, breathing in. Let the breath go. And then have a shake off. Just let that move. You're going to come down onto the mat, take your time with it. You can do it gracefully if you want. You come into a forward fold, but sometimes when that joint's uncomfortable, it is difficult to get into a forward fold. But if you can, come down. If you need to come down in any way that feels better for you, that's okay. One of the things you can do, which is not easy for a lot of people if they've got knee problems, but I'm going to add it in for those that do feel they can. You're going to come onto the toes, but drop your bottom towards the ground and lift your knees up. Let your bottom very far drop down. You can see it's really trying to pull down. There's a real opening here. As we do that and we come down, if we keep the weight backwards but drop our head forwards, what we'll feel is an intensity move down the spine and into this area of our hips. So, a couple of breaths here just to feel that. So you can see there's a rotation through the hips, but it's not affecting the back there where it joins into the spine. Take a breath in again. And release, come down. Place your feet out. Now I would advise, if you're somebody that's in this natural sitting position that you slump, that you actually pop some cushions underneath your bottom or a block. I'm pointing at the blocks so you can get the idea of what I'm talking about. So you can sit up as straight as you can. But what we're going to do in this is we're going to push the heels away from us. We're not going to lean forward. We're going to come up nice and tall in the body and then pull the chin down to the chest. And then a little curve of the shoulders and a little pull back of the tummy muscles there. And just allow the sensation to move all the way down the back, and you're going to feel it potentially all the way down to the toes. If you're a very flexible person, you may need to move forward just very gently. You're not trying to get your head down as such. You're just trying to feel that pull gently through the body. Breathe in. I'm sorry if it's loud on the microphone. I'm talking quite close to it. And then come back up. And then just let your body have some movements. Okay. And then we're going to go on to all fours. So we're doing this to activate the core here a little bit, but also make sure the spine, the hips, everything's in alignment. And it's very important that you listen to direction with this, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be lifting a leg and an arm off the ground opposite sides. But what tends to happen is people do it, is they twist open their hips. Well, obviously we can see that puts pressure there, doesn't it? So we don't want that. So if we just lift a leg off, but just try and think about being, we can even go through it a couple of times to find what's level and look down and see if the hip bones look level from the ground on either side. Contract those tummy muscles up and back at the same time. And if you do want to know how to activate the core properly here, I do have a switch on video in the library that you can have a look at quickly. But here we are, we're just going to contract the bottom, squeeze the bottom without making the hips rotate. And then we're going to see if we can take the opposite hand off the ground. So we want to pull those tummy muscles in. We want the glutes to be activated. We want to try and feel like this is opening rather than closing. And we're going to pull through the length of the body. So keeping the ear level with the arm, face parallel to the ground, not lifting, not dropping. Taking a breath in. And exhaling. And again, breathing in. And exhaling, just check your positioning. Have you moved? Have your hips moved? Have you lifted? One last time, breathing in. Exhale, hand down, knee down. Feel the back release. Come into child's pose for just one moment. Have a little rest. Sometimes slower is harder, but better. We're going to come back up and very gently do the same again. So remember, we take the leg out. We can find what is open, what is closed, or what is level. We can make sure we feel balanced. And we can activate the glute and push the leg out straight with the opposite hand. It doesn't have to be very high, or you could just even be putting the weight on one side and just gently popping the fingers there if it's too much, so we can accommodate this. Contract your tummy muscles so your spine is active. It's going to slightly release the stress in the back there. Reach the opposite hand off the ground and point the toe, squeeze the bottom, head's level. Take a breath in. And exhale, stay here, keep the tummy engaged. And again, breathing in. Keep the tummy engaged, exhale. You're starting to get tired, so just check your positioning. Think about that activation. Reaching through the body, not opening the hip. Big deep breath in, one last time. Exhale, hand down, knee down, and gently down we go. Now stay down in child's pose for a minute. You can stop the video now if you've reached the point where it feels a little bit tired, especially if you've got problems in that area. But what I do want to do is just give a little bit of opening and stretch to that lower back. So if you want to stay with me, that's fine, but I can understand if you want to have a rest. You can always pause the video. So we're going to come onto our back and very gently, it's nice down here. Oh, it's a little chilly. And very gently, take one knee up in towards the body. And gently pull it slightly in towards the centre line of the body. Take a breath in. And let the breath go. And release. Let's do it on the other side. We're going to bring the knee in, slightly across slightly rotating the hips inwards, pulling it in. Take a breath in. Exhaling. And releasing. Dropping the feet so they're hips distance apart, hands wherever you feel comfortable. Maybe they're up, maybe they're down, maybe you're on the tummy. And we're going to just keep the feet still, but just roll over on the edges of the feet and just drop the body down. And you're going to feel that was quite quickly, that pull, that stretch through the entire length of the body. If you feel able, you can stretch over the head and stretch through the body. But if that's too much on the back or the joints, just let that ease off a little bit. Take a breath in. Just retain the breath for a moment, just soften everything, and now exhale. And one more like that, breathing in. And exhale. Now a little contraction through the front of the body as we roll back up. So try and get your lower back completely flush as you roll across and onto the other side and dropping down. Now you can bring the hands back down for support if you need, but if you can keep them up. And stretch through the body, take a breath in. Hold the breath. Exhale, contract the muscles. And let everything go soft. We're going to do that again, breathing in. Notice I haven't changed the feet to accommodate, we're just trying to keep them apart. Exhale. Now take a breath in, breathing in. Exhale, coming back to centre. And then at the top, when your knees are at the top, you just let the back relax. You have a muscle that comes from the middle of the back down towards the top of the femur, just kind of slightly in the inside of the leg, and it's called the psoas muscle. And this is one of the things that can cause quite a lot of pressure on the SI joint. And because of that tightness, it can sometimes have one tightness on one side and it pulls the body out of position. It can have an effect on how your feet are sitting, and that's why sometimes we are kind of penguin-toed. So if we just lay still for a moment and just relax these muscles, which is called the psoas reconstruct move. So we're just kind of going to let those muscles around the spine and into the leg be very inactive. They can't do anything because the back's not moving and the legs aren't responding. So we can just breathe in and expand through the tummy muscles and through the spine. So we're putting pressure through the spine, and then we can exhale and just let everything go really soft. And again, breathing in. And letting that go. Try not to move if we can help it. Try and stay still. Take another breath in. Let the breath go. Let the tummy muscles hollow, drop, empty. You might feel the thighs begin to shake a little bit here, so you're kind of moving very quickly. But just try and relax them as much as you can without try not to sway the knees if you can help it. Take another breath in. And exhale. And then when you're ready, sit up and go back your day. Namaste. Thank you.